All right, everyone, welcome back to the 580 show, episode 117. Myself, Frawley. That's it tonight. That's for
That's
the
good.
first part of the episode.
Yeah, right.
We're gonna we're gonna do the episode a little bit differently. If you're a normal listener, usually we kind of just talk the whole way through, even if we have a guest or whatever. A lot going on. We competed last weekend. Well, I did, and Dante did. Frawley was there. We are at the Arnold Classic for the first time as competitors. We didn't really get an opportunity to talk about it too much, so I kind of want to just hop on here with Frawley, and kind of talk. He spectated, I competed, talk about the whole classic because we had been there as spectators in the past. How the Arnold's changed since post-COVID era and stuff like that, and then our buddy Ralph Avallone, who ran the Ragnarok Games, we haven't got to touch base with him coming off the Ragnarok Games. It was a few weeks ago. So what we're going to do is we're going to just talk me and Frawley the first part of the episode, and then we're going to have Ralph on for the second. So if you're here for the Ragnarok Games, head to the middle part, but we'd appreciate if you listened to our whole
Yeah,
thing.
just listen, man. We got
Yeah.
something good to say.
So
Come on.
yeah, we got a lot but to
Yeah.
talk about.
Yep.
So yeah, let's just go into it. So 2023 Arnold Classic is come and gone. It's my first ever world class show, meaning other countries open to not outside of America. So my biggest show ever. Um, I don't want to say I'm disappointed because I think I did the best I honestly could. Like given my performance, the Viking press was really heavy. I zeroed that event.
Sure.
11 out of 20 something guys in my class zeroed it, so it was clearly heavy. Um, Fatback Farmers, I hit a PR. Um, what was the other event? Arm over arm. I did very well at that event. The only one I would say I kind of underperformed on was the odd object load, and um, definitely not pointing fingers because everyone works under the same exact.
Yep.
Um, but I trained with a true fire hydrant. The
Right.
one we have at our gym, obviously, probably, but we just have a true fire hydrant. And the way it was loaded, we didn't really ever get to touch it. And like I said, same with everyone. But the fire hydrant hung almost everyone up. I thought I was gonna have a chance to finish the medley, and I really think if I would have had some more time to mess around with the fire hydrant, I would have been able to come close to finishing it. But
Sure.
I noticed, and you might have noticed this too, all the lighter classes, like the 80s and the 90s, got all hung up on the fire hydrant.
Yep.
It was plate loaded, which was really cool. I think Sticks and Stones did an awesome job with the loading medley. I think they did an awesome job. But it was bottom loaded. So it was just something like I'd never felt before because you had 90% of the weight at the bottom and then only 10% throughout the rest of the fire hydrant. So it hung everyone up. So the only one I'm really disappointed, obviously, I want to get a rep on Viking, but I'm just not strong enough. It wasn't anything that I messed up technically. It was just, but the odd object load, could have done better on that. But I got sixth place, tied for sixth place in my class. So my first world championship show, like I'm happy with sixth. I'm excited to go back next year, and my goal is to make the finals. So
Yeah. I mean, we knew going in, you and Dante both, you would need a rep on the overhead to have any kind of legitimate chance of making finals. And if it didn't happen, it was going to take like a Herculean effort for you guys to
right.
get it.
And
And
you shouldn't
that's
like
how it is.
yeah, with four events, you shouldn't be able to 0-1 and make the
Right.
finals. Like
Right.
that's on me. I can say I'm one rep away from making the finals, but so can 10 other guys.
Yep.
So it's not like I'm an outlier where it's like I just got to get stronger, you know.
Yeah.
But man, like uh I thought it ran pretty well. Obviously, like at the end, they're just trying to go gung ho with the odd object load, like
Yeah.
to get off the
Somebody talked
floor.
about it though, man. Like you could only run one person at a time.
Yeah,
Can't
yeah.
remember who said that, but like it's somebody on their Instagram story or something said that, and they're like, "Well, yeah, you can only have one competitor go." So like, obviously that one's going to drag a little bit, right?
Yeah.
But
It
it just
but
it is.
it
Other
was
than that,
cool.
dude, I mean, everything was on schedule.
Yeah, it was cool. It
So,
was cool being at the Arnold, obviously getting to compete there,
yeah,
and man, there were some insane performances.
sure.
Um so obviously like on the lighter weight side, this big story going into the Arnold was the two guys that were by far the two betting favorites to win,
Yep.
Andrew Hanus and Ben Donen, both didn't make weight.
Right.
So I think a lot of people are excited to see those two go head to head because, truthfully, in
Mhm.
my opinion, I think if they make weight, those two are the best in the world
Right.
at 80s.
Mhm.
Josh Kowaleski showed it. but I'll get to that too. But so they didn't make it. So they actually got to go head to head at the 90s.
Right.
And Ben Donen ripped his hand open, I think, on the Farmers. And I saw the pictures. It was
It,
disgusting. Let's
that was
talk
something
about
I
that.
wanted to talk about too, real quick. Was like, man, I saw so many pictures of people's hands just
Dude, I
absolutely meat grind.
seriously think 15% of the field ripped their hand open
Yeah,
on the Farmers.
I wouldn't be
I mean,
surprised if more.
Dante did.
Yeah,
And I mean, if you look at it, it's like, dude, having arm over arm rope pull after ripping your hand open, even though you could wear gloves, like that is
yeah.
a horrible event to have your hand
You
ripped
just,
open
I
for.
mean, your hands are going to swell up right away.
Right.
Get all
But
puffy, your grip's going to go. So
yeah, that's a good point because that was the first time I ever saw that many hands. And I mean, it's probably just because it's so heavy.
I
Like,
think so.
yeah,
Because if I remember right, they were the same ones at Nationals.
that's what
Now,
I was gonna say. They're
obviously, we didn't do fatbacks, right?
right.
Just
They're
normal farmers.
right.
But
I mean, it's a hard event. They're heavy,
yeah,
and you're doing 10 deadlifts.
yeah.
And but yeah, James Deffenbaugh makes those spider strength top loaded
Mhm.
handles, and they're amazing. They're
Yeah,
amazing. They're the same similar handle to the Bardos ones. I
yeah,
have no complaints about the Farmers. I think it's just a mixture of heavy and 10 deadlifts,
yeah.
with no
I
straps.
think the big thing that you could take away is make sure the week of you trim them down, right?
Yeah.
Trim your calluses, it's a piece of
But
sandpaper or whatever.
yeah, dude, for sure.
I
I
want. I
think
know. I know. I'll have that noted for the future.
yeah.
Yeah,
But man, I think the story that stole it for me was Andrew Hanus. He won the world championship last year at 80.
absolutely.
And you look at him, that dude is a wagon, dude. Like he is just he doesn't look like an 80 kilo. Like
He's huge.
I know he loves us and he wants to fit in with us lightweights, but he's a 200 guy. Like, dude,
Huge.
he's so big. I think he could still make 80 kilo. Like if he, I don't know. I don't know where Andrew's at like with that, but um, he's become a good friend of mine just through competing. Like my first nationals ever, he was so nice to me.
Yeah.
But he won the world championship last year
Right.
at 80 kilos, which is
Right.
175 pounds, comes back this year and wins the 200 class. And we're not talking about like, I just try to explain to people like, you're not talking about the 200s at a local show. Like, that's impressive enough going up to that. But like, this dude won the world championship at 80 and now went up to 90 and just won.
It's
And
just funny, like I listened to the Winner Circles podcast, like Nick
yeah,
Cannon
yeah,
podcast, and he was a guest right before the Arnold, right? And he said last year he threw out his sauna after the Arnold because he's
yes,
like done with 80 kilos, right?
right.
And then he had it in his mind, he's like, I got to defend my title, whatever. And then he's like, I'm not cutting weight anymore, blah blah blah. And then he goes and he tries to cut the weight, and then he's like, okay, I'm calling it. Like this
Yeah,
isn't safe, whatever. And then he's like, okay, well, I'm going up to the 90s, and he ends up competing 90s anyway, and then he wins.
yeah. Like
It's
he didn't
pretty
just
crazy.
like, but like that 200s class man was so
Yeah,
impressive. You have
absolutely.
Joey Stampkey,
Hmm.
who won. I don't know how to say his last name, but sorry, Joey. But he won nationals. He's a
Okay.
stud. Eric King,
Hmm.
who came in second in nationals, he's a teammate of mine because we're both coached by Andrew Clayton. He's a stud. I'm
Hmm.
sure I'm missing a million other studs, but like, man, what a performance, dude! Like,
It's awesome.
just insane. And I was talking to Andrew the night before we competed, and I was like, dude, I messaged him like, dude, you can win the 200s. Like, I don't know if you believe in yourself, but you can win the 200s. I'm sure other people told him that too. Like, I'm sure a ton of people. But just because I've competed head to head with him and I've watched him compete as a judge and stuff, like, he's such an incredible athlete. Like, what a feat, man. Like, that was so cool to like see. And I'm happy for Andrew. So, like,
For sure.
I thought that was a huge takeaway. And I mean, we can go up the classes. We skipped lightweights, but I don't know how to say Josh's last name. I don't know if it's Kowalski or Kowalski, or, but no disrespect to Josh.
Kawaluski.
Yeah, I was so excited. He was one of those guys I was so excited to finally get to compete with because he's a world class guy.
Sure.
Um, and I know he's banged up going into OSG this year, and he still got, I think, top 5
Wow. Okay.
at World's Strongest Man. And man, he stole the show. He
Yep.
stole the show in the lightweights. I think he won 3 of the 4 events and then got second or third in the odd object load. So like had such a huge load league in the finals. I think he won all 3 events in the
I was
finals,
gonna
I
say, I'm
think.
pretty sure he won the deadlift. I
He
remember.
won. I know he won the deadlift for sure.
Yeah, I'm
The
pretty
circus
certain.
wasn't live streamed, so I didn't see it. And
Okay.
then he was first or second on power stairs.
Yeah. Yep. I remember watching the Power Stars.
Yeah, man. But it's obviously I'm biased, and I'm sure you'll have a lot more to say when you get to super heavyweights. But shout out to the guys that made the finals in my class. Alec Patron, his first ever Arnold, he gets second. Obviously, Cody Abel back in the finals and got third, and then Bob Leslie from Hawaii
Mhm.
got fourth. So awesome group of guys. Obviously, I get to compete with. So
Sure.
but then the 90s, we already talked about them. 105s, our boy and listener of this podcast, Bill Kendall.
Yep.
Like,
Yep.
he's a stud, dude. I
Yeah.
think Bill's a guy I can see finals at OSG, finals at Clash,
Mhm.
at all these big shows, whatever other big shows pop up. Bill is here to stay, dude. Like any doubt in that dude's mind,
Every
like
event he did, I watched him. I'm like, okay, like let's see how this one goes, and he absolutely crushed it. Like,
he's a
like,
stud.
like there was no he had
Yeah.
no there was
I'm
no struggle in like anything he
right.
did. It was just
Yeah, he's a good he's an easy dude to root for. Obviously, like he
sure.
supports the pod like in the past, like he's listened to the pod. He had me bring him horsepower to the Arnold.
That's
So like
awesome. Yeah,
obviously some of his performance was due to horsepower,
naturally.
but no, he's just a well-rounded. It's like, and you can say this about 90% of strength athletes that we meet, but he's a good dude. He's a
Hmm.
good person. Like, and it makes it easy to root for him because you go up to him and he's just a goofball and he's a nice guy, and
Sure.
like that's the best. And you can say that about every, like I said, a million people. It was
Right.
cool to, it was it was cool to meet a lot of people. That we made. Like I've either just seen in passing, get to BS with some new people, got to compete with some big names. But
Sure. Hmm.
the 265s, I don't know much about that class. They're a pretty smaller class. Our only thing I want to say is, and also let me go back to through their words. We didn't even talk about Dante.
Right. Right.
He highlighted it last week. If you guys
Yeah.
listen to our quick recap, but he ripped his hand open like we were talking about in the farmers right to
Both
start,
of them. Yep. He ripped
and
them both wide open. So
it just it put a huge. And what breaks my heart for Dante is farmers is his best event, and if you
by
watch
far,
his first 40 feet, he might have
totally.
had the fastest time
Yeah.
the first
He was.
40 feet. And then
Yeah.
he ripped his hand open on the way back. So, that sucks. Obviously, I think Dante will be back.
Yeah.
Um, he's still so young and he's still so new to strongman. Like I'm
Right.
just happy for him to get that experience of his first Arnold, you
For
know.
sure.
So didn't want Donnie thinking we were just skating by him. But 265, they had maybe 10 guys or something.
Yeah.
It was
Something
the
like that.
debut class of the 265s at the
Yeah.
Arnold.
Yep.
So but the only thing I really have to say, I don't know many of those guys. Congratulations to whoever won. But our boy Troy Stittinger, who trains at 580 every once in a while, like leading up to contest, does our shows. Obviously, like just a big supporter of us as far as like
Yep.
horsepower 580 in general. He got fifth overall in the 265s. He missed the finals by half a point.
Oh wow.
Um,
I didn't realize it was that
so yeah,
close.
I think it was literally a half a point.
Sure. Cool.
Um, so yeah, and then you can kind of talk about the super heavies, but just an insane class, dude. Like it's not even right. Like I watched the finals
Yeah.
and it's like crazy because there's like 8 guys like on stage of the finals, and you're like,
I think
I
it's
could
10.
see him being
Yeah.
the next Tom Evans, like
Right.
competing next Bobby Thompson, like going to compete and then making his name known. It's insane, like how many studs there are.
Yeah.
Like you
100%. Dude, like they're massive. Like that's the part that just blows me away is just the sheer size of the guys,
Yeah,
like
they're
like
just
I talked with Levi Strong a little bit. I talked with Sean Schellinger, Zach Harden. I talked to those guys, and I'm just like man, like it's not very often these guys make me feel small, but I'm looking up to every one of these guys. Like, hey, how's your show going? Talking.
right.
What position are you in right now? What place are you in? How'd you do in this event? This event still got good ones coming up. Blah blah blah. I think the finals, like obviously you said the dumbbell wasn't live streamed, so I couldn't
Yeah.
watch it because I
Which
I
that
didn't
sucked.
I
I
didn't go
wanted
on Sunday. But
yeah.
if I remember right, how many guys were still standing after a 240 dumbbell or a
I think a
250?
lot. I think like
Like
two was it 249 or 259 was the separator.
yeah, 259
But
was
just
the separator.
but just
But
insane,
there was
dude.
still
Just
five
insane.
guys still going,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Like it
It's
with
just
one
nuts.
hand.
And I'll say, like, I mean, obviously, like, I think a lot of people have their eyes on Nick Canby because he's moving
Yeah.
up to heavyweight,
Hmm.
and obviously he's just a huge name, like in the
Yep.
sport. He got, I think, seventh, right,
I
or
think that's
something
right.
like
Yep.
that.
Yep.
And he had an awesome performance. I mean, I
Hey
would be
man, he made the
curious to see,
finals.
like, yeah, I'd be curious to see what he would say about his performance. But I got to
Yeah.
talk to him a little bit at the Arnold, which was cool.
Hmm.
Um, I will say when I was watching the finals and they announced that like they were getting down to like the top three and then two. I was surprised when Lucas Hatton was two and not one.
Yeah. Yeah. He was
Because
right behind that guy from Poland.
man, that guy can, and not to take anything from the guy from Poland that won, but
Yeah. Yeah.
like
Yep.
Lucas Hatton's a stud, dude.
Hmm.
He's a stud.
Yeah. I
And
mean,
like
anybody in the super heavyweight class that's
in the
making the
fun.
finals.
Yeah. It's just so crazy because like that's the kind of the beauty of strongman, but you shuffle events around and it's
Hmm.
seven different events. You
Sure.
may have that super heavyweight group in 10 different orders. You know
Yep.
what I mean? Like there's so many guys on there in every class. There's so many, but it's the Arnold World Championship. So I
Right.
mean, they're supposed to be. So
Right.
that was cool.
Yeah. And
Um,
it's
and
the that level, like the competition in the class is it makes sense because it's the most represented class, right?
right,
There's
right.
like when you're in
Yeah,
strength sports, you're gonna have the most big boys. It just makes sense for the sport. So
right.
but
And like
it's cool to
people,
see like the amateur ceiling get pushed.
yeah, and like
Like, holy shit, man.
people want to see heavyweights because they lift the most weights.
Right.
And it's the most represented class. So I have no problem with them having 10 bids, like especially the stakes that are on the line, which
Yeah.
is to compete out on the main stage the next
Right.
year.
Right.
Like that is so cool for those guys. And then like you look at the Arnold Pro, and I don't want to talk about it too much, but like you look at the Arnold Pro, they 10 of the strongest guys in the world, right?
Yep.
And um Tom Evans goes, he's only been doing strongman since 2019
Yep. Took
and he
fifth.
comes in fifth.
Took
Like
fifth.
the rock throwing thing was stupid. That event sucked. I think
Yep.
everyone thought that event sucked.
Yep.
The ladies had an incredible performance too.
Yep.
I think even just like going back to the amateur side of things for the women, we didn't touch on that at all, but like
Right.
just incredible performances by some of these girls.
Hmm.
You look at
That.
like the 140 class,
Hmm.
like they're just so insane.
Hmm.
Like for women, like, 140-pound girl and they're lifting the stuff that they're lifting. Same with the 160, 180 super,
They
like
even had a
just stuff.
representation for the 125 women.
Yeah.
Like
Yep.
there were enough people there to have a class, and I was just like, man, that's
Crazy.
incredible.
It's so cool.
The
It's so
one event
cool.
that actually I remember the most is the one heavyweight girl doing the loading medley.
Oh yeah.
The whole place erupted when she
Well,
finished.
what's her name? Erin Murray.
Yes.
She
Yep.
went
She
up.
did the
She went
heavyweight.
up to heavyweight
Uh-huh.
and she won.
Hmm.
Like
Now,
it,
if I remember right, I was told she won a 73 kilo, an 82 kilo, and a heavyweight show, major show,
yeah.
all this year.
Yep.
That's
Yeah, I
incredible.
I don't, but like yeah, we're talking about Andrew Haynes going up a class.
Hmm.
She went up to the super heavyweight, which those girls are insane.
Hmm.
And she's probably the lightest one.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And she, like think about that performance right there. Like that's
Now, my
incredible.
question is, does she get invited to the big stage
I don't know the answer
like
to
the
that.
men do?
I
Yeah, I
hope she
don't know
does.
the answer either. So if somebody does, please comment below.
Yeah, I really hope she does because she was
I
she was
makes sense to
incredible.
me.
Right.
So
But yeah, like I mean, and if we're brushing over you, like we're sorry, like I can't talk about every single person, but
right.
it was so good seeing people and thank you to people that came up to us and it was awesome. It was fun. Like I wish I made the finals, trust me. Like I wish I made it more than anything, but it was fun going and just walking around all day Saturday. Like I slept in, obviously was pretty run down from doing four events. But like just going and walking the Arnold again, like seeing people that I saw back in 2014, 2015,
Dan
2016,
Bell.
Dan Bell,
I
like
think it's
Matt
awesome.
Vincent. I got to talk to Matt Wenning for a while.
Yeah.
And just kind of walking it as a patron.
Yeah.
It was cool. I'll say like there was a ton of boosts still, like as many as there always was
Sure.
probably,
Mhm.
but there wasn't as many like big boosts.
Right.
Like I didn't see like Gymshark.
Right.
I didn't see obviously I think Bang's like out of business or whatever now. But Rain had a
Optimum
really big boost.
nutrition. Optimum Nutrition wasn't
Yeah,
there.
right,
Animal
right.
Pack wasn't
And
there. I
the
mean,
animal booth, that which animal cage was
yeah,
obviously huge back in the day.
but there
Um,
were still some good booths.
yeah, yeah. You know what I
100%.
thought was cool? I was talking to Ben Pavernick about it. The XPC was inside the.
Yeah, and I tried to find it. I couldn't find
It,
where it
it
was set
was super. Saturday was awesome.
up.
It
Okay.
was literally like so. The XPC powerlifting was like it was really cool. It was
Yeah.
really really cool. It was like basically a big glorified booth. You
Hmm.
could just walk by and watch the powerlifting like as you were looking at other booths.
Uh-huh.
It was really cool.
Yeah.
So like it was awesome, dude. They had Ultimate World Championship chase tag. They
Huh.
had medieval fighting. They had obviously strongman. They had like the arm wrestling, arm lifting, curl, weightlifting dominates the Arnold. There's a ton of weightlifting. The
Yep.
pro strongman. They had American Ninja Warrior. They had dude so much stuff.
I know the 21 deadlift salute. Is
21
that through
deadlift
the
salute.
XPC? I think that's the
Yeah,
XPC.
I don't
Yeah.
know.
That
Yeah,
was
but
on the Rogue stage
they
though.
had that. Yeah. So it
That's a
was just
cool event.
it was a really cool time.
Yeah.
It was really cool. Any other main like takeaways from it?
I don't I mean, I don't think so. I think we touched pretty much everything.
Yeah,
It's I mean, it's heavy. Like, yeah. I know like people were talking about the Viking press being heavy. Well, I mean, it's a world championship. It is the
right,
amateur world championship.
right.
So, I mean,
If you
if
want to win, it's not gonna be a 30 rep, 40
right,
rep, you know what I
like
mean? It's not a
it's
local show.
it's the nature of the beast.
Right. But
So, I,
I guess before we get into the Ragnarok game side, I guess the only other main big thing this week from Strongman was OSG, official
gotta know.
Strongman Games, World's Strongest Man for weight classes is going to be in Charleston, West Virginia.
Yep.
So we actually saw Lynn at the Arnold and Dante stopped him and we held him down and
Oh,
twisted his
really?
arm to find out right before the announcement. So we knew.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's gonna be a big coliseum. I mean, if you saw his post, I guess he probably had some reasons for moving it from Daytona. Internet Charleston has an international airport, which
Sure, the
huge.
hurricane impacted a lot,
Hurricane, I'm
like
sure
getting it
impacted
out of
it.
there.
But just like he had a good post about it. He's like, you guys asked for more space, airport, better vent, like all this stuff. So he came through. And if Lynn's doing it, I trust him. Like I don't know Lynn on a personal level, but he does great from what everyone says with OSG. So
Right.
that's really cool. I think that's gonna be my main goal for this year is to get
Sure.
back OSG 2023 and then the Arnold 2024 and
Hmm.
do the
Hmm.
big shows now. So yeah, I'm interested. I'm interested. Obviously, it's 3.5 hours from our house, so
Yeah,
like everything's coming up here, which is cool.
yeah. I want to know, and I'm assuming we'll know sooner than later. He did say in the comments the online qualifier is going to be announced in June, July timeframe.
Yeah,
Um,
that's
but
when it'll start, probably, right?
yeah, right. So but I want to know like what's the regional situation? That's what I'm
Yeah,
curious.
and it
Is
looks like
there?
it looks like North Carolina Strongest is coming back. Lynn's running it,
Yeah,
and that's going to be a regional.
I don't know if it is or isn't though, because I haven't seen confirmation that says you will qualify.
Yeah,
You know what I
who
mean? Like
knows?
it didn't specifically say we're
Right,
taking X people from this show for OSG, so I don't
right.
know.
Well, so if you have insider information, let us know.
Right.
Um, But yeah, that's pretty much it. I just want to say thank you again to everyone that it is crazy. Don't touch my phone all day competing, and then just like friends, family, people I know on Instagram, people I've never met, just wishing me good luck, ask me how it went, like overwhelming support. So I
Right.
really, really do appreciate that.
For sure.
And everyone that came up to us at the Arnold. And then thank you so much for all the support for Horsepower.
Yep.
Really, really keep buying, keep sharing. Best pre-workout on earth. If you like it or you want to try it, go to 580barbell.com pre-workout tab. We can ship anywhere in the US. And just thank you. Keep sharing it. So we will now be welcoming on Ralph Avallone from the Ragnarok Games. So now welcoming on our friend Ralph Avallone from the Ragnarok Games,
Yo,
coming
what's
off
up?
his we want to hear how he is coming off the Ragnarok Games. He's got a big smile on his face. It looks like it went well, but Ralph, I guess just starting off, how did it go? Did it meet your expectations? What are some like post game thoughts?
Shocked and awed, I guess. Not about the production. I had the confidence that we would fulfill what we said that we would fulfill in regards to putting on an amazing production, treating the athletes like rock stars from novices all the way up to the pros. But never could have anticipated the amazing stars that came into alignment at the event with Magnus, with Bill Kazmaier, with Peyton Parrish, just with Apocalypse 6x6, just amazing, amazing things. Just I'm very rarely shocked in business, but I was one shock and awe after another. But the testimonials from the athletes were unbelievable. Still not through my emails. I got that weekend, I got like 12,000 emails, couldn't keep up with Instagram, text messages. It was a lot. But all positive, yeah, I'm glad that, you guys gave us a chance, way back when. I said, you know what, if you love us or hate us, let's talk after the chips fall,
Yeah.
Sure.
And that's where we are now. So
Right.
super
Well,
excited.
yeah, that's really cool. Because I remember, and I think so this is your third time being on the pod.
Yep.
And I actually remember, I think I talked about it the second time you were on, but if people didn't hear, a quote that stuck out to me the first time you were on was, I'm not asking for anybody's money. I'm not asking for anybody's support. I'm asking for a fair shot.
Yep.
And then we'll see how, like, exactly like you just said, like how the chips fall after, I'll say I was at the Arnold the week after the Ragnarok Games, and I talked to a couple of athletes that competed, and exact thing. And I obviously didn't talk to all the athletes because you had a lot, but I talked to a few, the only ones that I could had at my disposal. And one of the strongmen said that it was the first time ever he left the show with the check ready to cash. And
okay,
I thought that was really cool because we get these big fake checks, stuff like that, and then you gotta mail you the check and it's month, 2 month, whatever. But I had two people tell me that were at the Ragnarok Games, their checks cashed as soon as they took them to the bank.
and I think that's part of the skepticism, right? Like, people see the advertised prize payout. So I actually wanted to ask you that, like, were the prizes paid out on site? And it sounds like yes.
Yes, and I'm proud to say that not only has every athlete's check cashed.
Sure.
We paid out $10,000 in world record breaking checks. 10 world records were broken. We also gave a $5,000 sponsorship to Mr. Mike Deal, one of the adaptive athletes that competed. We chose him as the very first ever Captain Core Entertainment Productions sponsored athlete. And every single vendor and subcontractor has been paid as of Monday of this week, and all checks are cashed, and checkbook is balanced, and we are in gear for World Strength Games.
Yeah, that's awesome. We're going to talk about that in a second too, because I want to touch on like what's next. But yeah, that's really awesome. I want to talk about the live stream because we obviously weren't able to be in Miami, and you said last time you were on, you'd be able to see the sweat on the competitors' foreheads. And I will say, I was probably can attest because I was with them. We talked
about it all weekend. Yeah.
The quality. So like I'm talking just specifically like the dorky quality stuff, not like how the game, like the stuff that I don't even understand. All I know is, to put it in layman's terms, it was clear as hell. And it was by far the best. Like, whoever, I don't even remember who the company was that did it, but
it was Global Media Entertainment out of Miami. The guy is a 3-time Emmy Award winner for documentaries. So
yeah,
wow, okay.
Documentaries in 5K Ultra HD, and I saw the quality of it. And I hired him through the video, him videoing the camera on the fireplace in his house, and I was like, bro, you need to tell your wife she needs to clean the fireplace mantle, because I could actually see dust on the mantle.
Yeah, it was I've bought a lot of live streams, and I support try to support all the strongman live streams I can. I'll say, strictly from a quality standpoint, it was hands down the best that I had ever seen, from
easily the clearest,
just the clearest. Like, it was, you're like there. and that was really cool. I think
You know
too,
what?
like, not to downplay anything you guys accomplished, you and your team, with the Ragnarok games. I think too, like, what's really cool is, like, maybe as global media goes on and you go on and you guys continue to run shows, the quality's already there. And then you can fine tune even like running like just where cameras are and stuff even better. So like that, I think it's going to be incredible live streams in the future, because it was really, really impressive for the first time.
Well,
Like
thank you. No, I wasn't the cameraman. I just hired the right people.
yeah,
So.
right. No,
Mhm.
I was, that was one thing I was like, I was not nervous for you about, but I was like, I'm just so curious. I was so curious to see how the pay-per-view is going to be. And it was like, holy cow, this is clear.
Yeah.
This is
Well,
really
let me tell you a little story about the video. So, Apocalypse 6x6, we had a little catastrophic thing happen with the venue 2.5 weeks before the event. The manager that we had been working with, he quit and he locked his computer. So the people who took the helm never got the addendums to our contract that allowed for us to actually run the Apocalypse trucks and pull them in the pro division. So we had to cancel the mystery event on day one because they wouldn't let us run the trucks.
Oh,
So Apocalypse was a huge sponsor of ours, and they said, listen, we're going to sponsor because we want these pro strongmen to be pulling our trucks. So now you're in a conundrum. Well, it just so happens that the owner of Apocalypse 6x6, he comes on Monday to pick up the trucks. And he goes, brother, we sold 3 trucks on pay-per-view. I was like, what? These are $330,000 a piece trucks. So needless to say, he's going to be a huge sponsor going into World Strength Games.
really?
Yeah. However, what's amazing is he couldn't come on Sunday, but he wanted to see the trucks being, his guys and, interviews with the trucks and whatnot. Because we not only transmitted live pay-per-view, that same camera crew did commercials, really great ultra HD commercials for all of our sponsors so that they can have that footage for marketing later as part of what we promised them in the sponsorship. Well, it just so happens that Jerry from Apocalypse 6x6 was watching the pay-per-view and he called up a producer from Discovery Channel. Just so happens that Apocalypse had signed a deal with Discovery Channel for a 3-episode pilot series of Apocalypse Takes Over the Earth. So he called the producer and he says, I want you to click on this link and I want you to watch this. So the producer calls him up and says, what channel is this being televised on? He says, this isn't being televised on anything. This is just being fed from cameras live at the event. She said, do these people have a syndication partner to get this re-aired at a later date? And he said, I don't know. I'll ask Ralph tomorrow. So he comes to me on Monday and he says, we signed the deal with Apocalypse, with Discovery Channel. They're going to do a 16-episode thing with Apocalypse, and we want you guys to be a part of it. And it just so happens that we had really good relationships and conversations with Magnus, and we're going to co-produce Magnus's Classic in Iceland, and we're bringing Apocalypse there, and Apocalypse is going to film it. We're using Apocalypse trucks. It's going to be a wild thing.
That is really cool.
Yeah. Wow. So now we're waiting to get the raw feeds. We have 60,000 hours of feed that these 4 camera crews took.
Yeah.
So now it's to the point where they have to edit something for us because we want to get it up to, to our athletes and to our sponsors. But now we have that raw feed to give to a potential syndicator to get this on TV at a later date. Wow. One of my buddies is actually a producer for NBC Sports. And I don't know if, I know it was a long time to watch, but there was this moment that Mike Deal was the one-armed adaptive athlete was going to break the world record. Mm-hmm. And I was standing in front of him commentating. And at the moment he stepped up to the bar, the cameras were right behind me. He walked out and every athlete walked out with him and surrounded him and cheered him on. And my buddy from NBC Sports, he reached out to me Sunday night and he said to me, Ralph, he said, I've won 4 Emmys for sports. He said, that video was the best video I've seen in sport in 40 years. And it was. I was literally crying. People were crying. It was an amazing moment. Amazing. The adaptive athlete stole Ragnarok. It was amazing.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool to have a defining moment like that. You know what I mean? That you'll remember. I'll say, like, last thing about the Ragnarok games that I have, but Ralph, you were born to be on mic, brother. Like you got to hog that mic, dude. Like I don't care if your voice is like hurting. Don't give that mic up because you were like, it was so funny. Like you just like you just say your lines like so like you're born to be on that thing, dude. I'm telling you.
But by Sunday afternoon, man, my
Oh
voice
my
was
god.
completely gone.
Yeah, dude, I get it, but like, oh man, you're good on that thing. Like
Thank you.
you got the cadence like Ragnarok Games, and you have that dramatic pause, and you say the rise of the berserker. I was smiling cheek to cheek.
Thanks, man.
You're good on that mic, man. You
But
really
you know
are.
what it is too, bro? It's like I wanted the families that paid money to watch that pay-per-view to see your brothers, sisters, wives,
Yeah.
you know. I wanted them to get that feeling of you're here with
Yeah.
us. You know what I mean? And this is your athlete, you know.
You're the first ever guy to do a State of the Union to start off a strongman event. Dude, like, don't like. I was like brushing my teeth. He's like, dude, turn it on. Ralph's doing a State of the Union, like to kick off the Ragnarok games. I was like, geez, this is ridiculous. This is wild.
I missed my calling.
Yeah, dude. You're really, really like. I mean that genuinely. Like, you're
Well,
good
thank
on
you,
the mic.
thank you,
Like,
thank you, thank you.
you have that professional.
I
Cadence.
think the athletes deserve it, man. You
Yeah,
know,
they do.
too many of these shows you go to, and it's just, you know, what I saw when I was a competitor and being a promoter, I was seeing this. I just felt it could be done so much better, and it didn't take much to go that extra. It doesn't cost any extra money for a promoter to treat the athletes like real athletes and not cattle.
Right. Well, yeah, that's like I
We're a
think
big believer
that's
too.
yeah, that's one thing I've told Frawley is you know, if like I have a novice or something or someone that's just getting in the sport and they ask me what show they should do, I always look at the promoter and my question is, does this promoter give a shit?
Yeah.
And if the promoter cares, I think you can have the best equipment in the world. But if you have a promoter that truthfully cares and they're staying up at night and they're thinking, hey, I'm doing an 18-inch deadlift, but how are we going to make it look good? How are we going to not just even look good, but how are we going to make it run good for the athletes? And how are we going to I think that's 90% of it.
Yep.
I really, really do. And
I do too.
I just think you got to care.
And you know, how many times do you go to one of these shows and we're all competitors at one time or another, right? You go to the shows and there's two pictures of you, maybe one, maybe none. You know, we had 6 camera people from Zero Dark 30. They just uploaded 8,800 pictures for us.
Yeah.
So every athlete has multiple shots of multiple event disciplines, you know, and I think that's important because you know, some of these people will never compete again, but they had their moment, they had their bucket list item, and now they have the pictures for prosperity, and they're not grainy, they're high quality digital pictures, you know. But yeah, it's, you know, what it came down to is I just wanted to produce an event that treated the athletes like rock stars. And, you know, even when I went to sponsors after the negativity came out, a lot of the big sponsors, they shunned away because they believed the myths and rumors. And I understood that. And, you know, it's like a conversation I had with Ken from Cerberus. You know, he's like, I knew this call was going to come. And I said, Ken, I don't want anything from you. I said, I just want Cerberus to be a part of it. I want to send you a VIP ticket. And then a couple months went by, and I saw that Cerberus had released their first collars, compression collars. And I said, Ken, how about we do this? Send me 12 Cerberus collars for the 6 lanes. I said, and you'll be the official collar sponsor for the Ragnarok Games. Send us a couple banners. He says, all right. A couple weeks later, he saw that I put in an order for like 20 sandbags. He said, I'm going to give you 40% off on the sandbags. I was like, oh, wow, great. You know,
Awesome.
But as time rolled on, I think even the potential sponsors, they started seeing what was really unfolding. And I have to tell you, I'm blown away by the companies that are reaching out to me now. Some of them are saying, hey, we believe the myths and rumors. We're so sorry. We're definitely in for Ragnarok 2. We're definitely in for World Strength Games. And then some that I hadn't even contacted are reaching out to me saying, hey, we want to be a part of Captain Corp Productions, whatever you guys are involved in. And that warms my heart because I didn't take people's money. I even went to Blackstone. Blackstone's, hey, you know what? We'll give you $40,000. I said, you know what? Give me $10,000. That'll help me. Give me $10,000, be a master sponsor, and let us prove to you. Well, we proved to Blackstone. Blackstone is a $25,000 master sponsor for our next event, World Strength Games. So
wow, that's
incredible. Something right.
Well, let's talk about. I want to talk about 2 more things. So the World Strength Games got announced. You had touched on it briefly last time you were on, but like now it's kind of like the Ragnarok Games is come and gone, and now we can kind of like focus on the next event. So,
Yep.
the World Strength Games, is in September 2023, right?
Yep.
Same. Is it the same venue as the Ragnarok Games?
Well, I guess I can announce here because this is actually gonna be what air tomorrow.
Yeah.
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 Okay, so we have moved the venue to Orlando, Florida, at the Orange County Convention Center. It's 250,000 feet. We've partnered with Florida Fit Expo. There'll be multiple sports disciplines in the arena with us as well.
Oh, that's cool.
We will still have the same 70,000 square feet of competition space and exhibitor space that we had in Miami. We knew that eventually we would evolve out of Miami. It was a great venue, but the management wasn't good. We had some logistic issues with the venue. We had one of our sponsors' trailers that they paid for a permit for it to be in the back lot with $160,000 in vodka in it, and it got stolen in the middle of the night on Saturday, and they're still not releasing the security footage.
Jeez.
Yeah, so they're not answering our emails, they're not releasing the security footage, and now that we've proved that this can be done, we could take it anywhere. We had some other backup venues in Miami and in Fort Lauderdale, but this opportunity came to us. A promoter of Florida Fit Expo reached out on Monday morning after Ragnarok was over, and he said, "Congratulations, I've been following you." He said, "I've got an opportunity. What do you think about it?" And I was like, me and my partner talked about it and said, "You know what? Orlando's a great other international guest destination."
Yeah, sure.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll get some good international athletes. I have to tell you though, 80% of our Ragnarok athletes that competed have already committed to come back.
That's cool.
March 15th, we open up for registration. We already have a waiting list of 170 athletes.
Wow, that's really cool.
Yeah.
I think that's cool to partner with the Florida Fit Expo and like have other disciplines too. So, it's like an expo and you can kind of,
Sure.
I think that's really, really cool. So September 2023 World Strength Games, this is releasing on March 12th. So, in
March
just
15th.
in the podcast comes out on March 12th.
Gotcha.
So in 3 short days, you can go and sign up for the World Strength Games. So that is awesome. And I did see,
here it comes.
The American deadlift, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So talk about that.
Okay. So as you know, the current record stands with Jerry Pritchett, 1,025 pounds, been standing since 2016. We had a pro, Nico Chaparrales, that competed in the Ragnarok Games. And he basically placed the idea in mine and my partner's heads in regards to potentially doing this. Nico said, "I think I have a good chance of shattering that record, and I can bring, I think we should send invites to 20 of the best deadlifters in the United States." So we've already compiled the list of 20. Those invites have already started going out. We already have some commitments. I don't want to announce, obviously who it is, but obviously Nico's going to be there. But we've invited Jerry Pritchett to come as a guest of honor to possibly pass the torch if somebody does, have the ability of breaking that record. But Captain Core Entertainment Productions, before we've had any sponsors come to the table, because Blackstone came 2 days after our announcement, Captain Core Entertainment Productions is going to offer a $20,000 winner take all for whoever can break that record.
That is awesome.
I saw that circulating. That's a big deal.
Awesome.
Yeah, well, you know what? These athletes deserve it. The biggest problem in strongman and in the power world is and even in the bodybuilding world, those athletes, they don't make the money that they should make. And something needs to change. And
and it's like, there's something that like rubs me wrong about asking a human to go out and hit the all-time heaviest in a certain discipline
with blood coming from their ears, blood coming from their nose.
For free.
Yeah, for free.
It's like that stuff has gone on for so long in strength sports, and maybe there's like people were able to accumulate the money, but like that is really cool. I think that's awesome. So it's at $20,000 already. I know you'll probably.
Josh, can we stay on that for a second about
sure
not being able to get the money? Here's the thing. If you're a promoter and you have to depend on your athlete registration fees and ticket sales to make your show profitable, then you're not a good promoter. I'm sorry. I'm just going to come out and say it. Okay. You have to be very creative. You have to give those sponsors a reason for coming, and you have to give them more than, I was talking to a couple sponsors at the Arnold and the Olympia. A lot of big name sponsors are pulling out because the Arnold and Olympia are no longer giving the email databases of ticket sales or pay-per-viewers. Now, if you're a company, one of the companies we spoke to spends $150,000 at each show to get there with all its staff and all its stock. Well, if you're not getting those lists, you go to these events, nobody's carrying big tubs of protein around the Arnold or, the Olympia. Yep. You survive off those lists to market those lists all year long to try to recoup some of your losses.
That's a great point. That's a great point.
And now that they're not offering it, I have no reason why. I think it's a bad management standpoint on them. Massive sponsorships. If you looked at the Arnold didn't have as many sponsors as it had in the past. Okay. As many exhibitors, as many foot traffic. There's something going on in regards to, I went to the Olympia this past year. I went to it prior to COVID. Prior to COVID, you were shoulder to shoulder walking through those aisles. After COVID, 2 years after COVID, the second year the Olympia's run, it was a ghost town in those aisles. Something is amiss.
Yeah, 100%. That's a great point. And let me just kind of touch on that too, from a local standpoint. I have a pre-workout company, right? And we're trying to grow it into a full brand supplement company. And it sucks. So many people ask me to sponsor a show, right? And throw absurd numbers at you. And it's like, hey, look, I want to help grow strongman. I want to support the sport, but at some point I have to look at it because I have a family, I have a house, I take care of you have to make it somewhat worth it for me to come.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's I'm just elaborating on what you're saying.
Or what you have to do is you have to be very creative as a promoter. I had to be very creative with the sponsors that we had. I reached out to Hollywood Chalk, a Hollywood powder company. Okay. Never really a big sponsor in national strongman. They're in California. They had sponsored a couple local shows. I reached out to them and I said, listen, I know you're a mom and pop company. I said, how about we do this? You send me some buckets and some stickers to put your logo on the side of the bucket, and you give me, 20 blocks of chalk for the Ragnarok Games, and you buy the banners that we hang around. He's like, yeah, you know what? I'll do that. Well, he called me after the show was over, and he says, oh my God, we're in. We're your partner forever, and we'll give you hard money next time, because we proved to those sponsors that even though they didn't give us any hard money, and we're faithful enough to take their trust in us on a promoter who had never done a strongman event before, we knew we had a lot to prove. But we also wanted to make sure that, there's always going to be people that hate. There's always going to be naysayers. Okay. But we went right into gear for World Strength Games, and we knew this going into Ragnarok that WSG was going to be right after 6 months later. But, now we're dispelling those potential or squashing those potential myths and rumors. Oh, it was just a one-hit wonder. The guy will never do another show again, because that's happened to the strongman community before. We already booked a venue for Ragnarok 2024. So, we're in it. We just spoke to a pro woman athlete to potentially put her name on our all woman strong woman games called the Valkyrie Games. And that'll be in May of 2024. So we're already, a year and a half in advance. We're in this for the long haul. We believe that the testimonials from the athlete standpoint will make it easier for us to get more athletes to say, okay, you know what? I made a mistake. And I have a lot of those emails. We had a total of 320 people register for Ragnarok. We had 210 athletes that were committed to come. 25 athletes had travel problems. They had to go back home. We reimbursed every one of their registration fees, because we feel in tough economic times that $125 can buy food. We don't need that money. Awesome. So
that's awesome.
And I also just finished sending out all the athletes that could not compete, that had a valid excuse, that had to drop out. We sent out all their shirts, even internationally, globally. We sent out shirts to the Congo today.
Well, that's really cool.
Yeah.
I guess the last thing to kind of wrap up, and I'm sure we'll talk to you again, Ralph, and
I want you guys to come live for World Strength Games.
Right. Yeah, we gotta talk.
Right
We
from
gotta
there.
talk about. That's awesome.
We'll send Magnus and Kazmaier right to you, man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
awesome.
Awesome.
But you know, we not, I don't want to brush it off. We appreciate you coming on our podcast for the first time. You didn't know us. We're not the biggest podcast in the world. So for you to come on and when people had a lot of doubts, we appreciate you giving us your time for a third time now. So
But you know
we
what,
always
Josh?
have your back as well. So.
That's our mission. Our
Yeah.
mission is if we succeeded, I always said this, if we succeeded with Ragnarok, with the sponsors that we had, the entire game of strongman will raise. And that's what's happening.
Yep.
We're now collaborating and sharing information with smaller regional shows and even down to some, city shows. Miami Baddest is coming up on April 14th. Where we're assisting Mike and expanding that footprint. He's had it for 7 years.
I saw with the Southeast Strongman Classic.
Yep.
I talked to Brandon Spivey. Just met him through Strongman Promoting, and the winners of all those classes, the open classes, get a free invite to the Ragnarok Games 2024. So
and we're doing that with the Fox It Up Classic. We're doing that with Louisiana Strongman Battle
really
of the Bayou.
Cool.
Yeah,
that's cool.
So you know what we believe that what the future holds is we gave out 6 Ragnarok Pro cards at Ragnarok Games. One to Steve Tripp, who was not a card holder of a federation. We gave a Ragnarok Pro card to. When people say to me, well, what is it? It's just a foam card. Well, no, it's not, because what we're doing with those Ragnarok Pro card winners is we are now assisting them to reach out to companies to get real sponsorships. Not this, I'm a sponsored athlete on Instagram because I got a 10% source code.
Right.
I'll use Mike Deal as an example. He made his own contraptions to fit his adaptation to lift the stones, to lift the Husafell stone. I've already reached out to Harbinger, who I've worked with adaptive athletes in obstacle course racing and powerlifting, and said, listen, I'm getting this guy in touch with you. You need to make him apparatus so that he could be more competitive in strongman. They're on board. Those are the things that we're going to do for our Ragnarok Pro card holders. We're going to help them. We're going to raise money. We're going to sponsor them for athlete registrations for other competitions so that they can represent our brand. And now you're going to have a non-federation pro that's out there.
Sure.
My hope is that the future will hold that the existing federations will recognize the Ragnarok pros and start inviting other pros outside the federation card holders to the world's strongest man. Because the reality is the strongest men on the planet do not compete in world's strongest man. They invite those athletes that have the biggest social media followings. And I can tell you that from proof, because if you saw some of the weights that some of the Ragnarok pros pulled at our events compared to the weights they pull at World's Strongest Man, it's kind of embarrassing.
Yeah, well, I think we kind of we kind of touched on everything I had for it, and I'm encourage people to look into the World Strength Games. It's opening in 3 days from now when you're listening. And Ralph, just you got a hell of a cadence, man. You got you just got that fire, and we support you, and we want to see you do well. And main thing is just keep growing strong, man, because that you're coming in and you're throwing.
What it is, Josh? You can't fake passion.
Yeah,
you can't. Right. I don't care how good of an actor you are. You can't fake real passion, and the athletes felt the passion. Even though I was super busy, I made sure that I went into the athlete warm-up zone numerous times over the weekend, because these events, it's a blur. It's so much goes on, it's a blur. But I went back and I shook their hands and I hugged them. I said, thank you so much for being part of the Ragnarok Games, because I wanted everybody to feel that I would have run these games just if that one athlete came to compete, and that's the way that they felt.
Awesome. Well, Ralph, man, we appreciate your time so much. We're happy to have you on and happy to be friends now and met you through this. So until the next time we have you on, is there anything else? Is there anything, I guess, before we wrap up this episode, is there anything you would like to say to everyone, after the Ragnarok Games? Is there a little last minute message you would like to say after it?
Sure. Thank you. First of all, I'd like to say thank you to all the athletes that actually had the faith in us to come and compete. We're sorry we beat the living crap out of you, but I told you from the beginning that it would be an event that you would say 2 things. Oh my God, what did I just put my body through? And oh my God, that was epic. That's what actually happened. And those athletes that did not have the faith to compete watched, heard, you would say, oh my God, I made a mistake and I'm definitely competing next year. But for all the volunteers, you cannot do a strongman event without an army of volunteers. I'd like to give a big shout out to Mike De La Pava and his Battle Axe clan. We had 30 expediters and loaders and sponsors that we calculated. Mike had calculated that had actually lifted 106,000 pounds in 3 days. To the volunteers on the peripheral that helped with ticketing and merch booths and everything else, we had another 20 athletes. We took care of our volunteers. Every volunteer received $150 American Express merch card so that they can buy food for the weekend. We gave them $50 off merch at the Ragnarok merch tent booth. And for the World Strength Games, we are actually housing them as well to come to Orlando, because we believe that we have an unbelievable partner in Mike De La Pava and his loaders and spotters that'll be going with us wherever we go, even if we go to Iceland for Magnus Classic. But yeah, that's another announcement too. Magnus has honored us with the ability of Captain Core Entertainment Productions being the producer of all North American Magnus Classic qualifiers for pros across North America.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, huge. And I'll leave you with this, when you talk and text with legends like Bill Kazmaier and Magnus, and you meet them in person, and they're just the same mantra of strongman. They're lovable, likable guys, But for me to leave here, my birthday was 2 days after Ragnarok, and Magnus was just at the airport, and I woke up at 4:00 in the morning to Magnus singing me happy birthday on WhatsApp. And the night of the award ceremony for Ragnarok Games, Bill Kazmaier got to the microphone and he said these words. He said, in my 46 years in strongman, this is the best, most well-produced strongman competition I've ever been a part of. And that for me was kind of, the cherry on top. It was, this man is a living legend, one of the strongest men to ever walk the planet. And for him to be inspired by the way we treated those athletes, it really proved to me that we fulfilled our mission statement to do what we said we were going to do.
Awesome. Well, Ralph, I'm proud of you. Congratulations. And
Thanks,
like
man.
I said, we really appreciate your time. And until next time, we'll be talking to you. If anyone, I can say confidently, he has an open line of communication. If you have a question about Ragnarok Games, you have a question about World Strength Games, the deadlift, anything, message him.
Yep.
He will get back to you. So, Ralph, thank you again, man. And we'll see everyone next week for episode 118.
All right, man. Thank you, everyone. Be well.